Imagine opening your heart, your home, to the person you trust the most, someone you've shared every secret, every fear with. Now imagine that same person is the one who will destroy everything you hold dear. This is the chilling story of a friendship turned deadly, a tale of betrayal so deep that it left an entire community in shock. A mother and her children, all lost in one devastating act. The alleged perpetrator, her closest friend. How did a trusted companion transform into a harbinger of tragedy? And what warning signs, if any, went unnoticed? Heidi Brassard was a woman loved by all who knew her. She had a natural warmth, a kindness that drew people in and made them feel at ease. Born and raised in Texas, Heidi had a close-knit family and a strong community of friends who had seen her through many stages of her life. To them, she was the friend you could rely on, the world, a constant source of joy and compassion. And when she met Shane Carey, her longtime partner, she found a happiness that only grew with time. Together, they shared a life filled with dreams and hopes for the future. They lived in Austin, Texas, a city that embraced them and became the perfect place to start a family. On November 26, 2019, Heidi's dreams took on new meaning when she gave birth to her daughter, Margot. Heidi adored being a mother. She spoke endlessly about her excitement, sharing every new moment and milestone with those close to her. Friends would later remember her glowing smile, the pride she took in her new role as a mother, and her plans for Margot's future. Heidi had a gentle yet determined spirit. She wanted to give Margot the kind of life filled with love and stability, just as she had experienced growing up. Megan Fieramusca, a longtime friend of Heidi's, shared many of the same milestones. The two women had known each other for over a decade, first meeting during their church camp days. They bonded over shared experiences, common dreams, and the ups and downs of life. Megan was often described as a fixture in Heidi's world, someone Heidi trusted implicitly, almost like family. But Megan's life was complicated. Over time, her life seemed to veer onto a different path from Heidi's. She had struggled with relationships and, according to some reports, had confided in Heidi about her own difficulties and desires. When Heidi announced her pregnancy, Megan was there to celebrate with her, even claiming to be pregnant herself. Friends noted this supposed pregnancy with curiosity, but few thought much of it at the time. What no one knew was that beneath the surface, Megan's envy and longing had begun to shape her actions in ways that would later become chillingly clear. As Heidi's life blossomed with new motherhood, Megan reportedly spoke of her own supposed pregnancy, detailing due dates and plans that never truly existed. While Heidi looked forward to her daughter's arrival with pure joy, Megan's behavior grew increasingly erratic, a subtle descent into a darker path that few could see unfolding. In the months before the tragic events of December 2019, Heidi Brassard was adjusting to her new life as a mother. She was overjoyed, sharing every little moment with those she loved, particularly her partner, Shane, and her best friend, Megan Fieramusca. Megan was a constant presence in Heidi's life, sharing in her excitement, supporting her through the sleepless nights, and always appearing ready to help her friend navigate motherhood. But beneath the surface, Megan's own life was becoming increasingly complex. She had told Heidi and others that she, too, was expecting a child. Friends recall how Megan would talk about her pregnancy in detail, offering updates, discussing names, and even sharing a supposed due date close to Heidi's. It seemed as though the two friends were walking through the same journey together. Yet, as time passed, those closest to Heidi began to notice that something felt off. While Heidi's pregnancy was evident and celebrated, Megan's supposed pregnancy was shrouded in mystery. She never showed signs that others expected, and she rarely offered physical proof, even as her due date approached. What no one realized at the time was that Megan's intentions were far from supportive. There were quiet hints, small inconsistencies that might have raised questions in hindsight. Megan began to grow distant from others, even while her bond with Heidi seemed to grow closer. She would occasionally avoid gatherings or mention vague health issues, all the while maintaining the illusion of a shared pregnancy. Then, in the weeks leading up to the crime, Megan's behavior took on a new level of intensity. She became more involved in Heidi's life, offering help with Margot and taking a special interest in the newborn. To Heidi, this attention must have seemed natural. After all, Megan was her best friend, someone she trusted completely. But to others it appeared increasingly unusual. Megan's fixation on Heidi and her daughter hinted at something far darker, yet no one could have predicted the extent of her intentions. As the days went by, more signs of tension began to appear. Majin's supposed pregnancy was never confirmed by any medical documentation, and she often dodged questions or changed the subject when friends expressed curiosity. Heidi, however, seemed unaware or simply trusting of her friend's word. She had known Majin for years, after all, and had no reason to doubt her. But in the background, Majin's actions continued to raise questions. She reportedly told others that she would soon be welcoming her own child, sharing plans for how she would raise this imaginary child, and even discussing arrangements for the nursery. It was a story that became more elaborate with each telling. Those closest to her might have found it odd, but no one anticipated just how far Majin would go to make this fantasy a reality. On the morning of December 12, 2019, Heidi Broussard went about her day as any new mother would. She dropped her 6-year-old son off at school and spent the morning running errands with her 3-week-old daughter, Margot. By all accounts, it was a regular day, filled with the small tasks of family life. Heidi likely felt safe, trusting her surroundings and the people closest to her. But by that evening, she and her newborn would disappear, leaving her family and community in shock. That afternoon, Heidi returned home. What happened next is pieced together from the investigation that followed. As the hours passed, Heidi's partner, Shane Carey, grew increasingly worried. When he came home that evening, he found the door unlocked. Inside, the family's belongings appeared untouched. Heidi's car was still parked outside. Her purse and Margot's belongings were left behind. But Heidi and Margot were nowhere to be found. Shane tried to reach her, but there was no response. He quickly contacted friends and family, hoping someone might know where she had gone. When no one had any answers, Shane reported Heidi and Margot missing to the police. The search began immediately, and as days passed, the community rallied, distributing flyers and sharing news across social media, all in hopes of finding Heidi and her daughter. What no one knew was that they were already far from home, taken by someone Heidi had trusted completely. As the investigation unfolded, a shocking lead emerged, directing authorities nearly 150 miles away to the Houston area residence of Magan Firamuska, Heidi's best friend. Acting on a tip and suspicious activity around Majin's house, officers made a discovery that would reveal the true extent of the betrayal. In the trunk of a vehicle parked at Majin's residence, authorities found Heidi's body, concealed and hidden away, a tragic end to a life filled with promise and love. Inside the home, they found Margot alive and unharmed, bringing a glimmer of relief to a heartbroken family and community. Majin, who had once stood beside Heidi through life's milestones, was now accused of orchestrating her friend's disappearance and attempting to take on Heidi's role as a mother. The investigation revealed that Majin had allegedly planned to pass Margot off as her own child, a twisted outcome of months of deception and obsession. The discovery left everyone in disbelief. That Magan, someone who had been close to Heidi for years, who had shared moments of joy and sorrow, could have planned such a horrific act was beyond comprehension. It wasn't just the loss of life that stunned the community, it was the knowledge that someone Heidi loved and trusted had been responsible. Majin's actions went beyond betrayal. They revealed a calculated plan to step into Heidi's life, to take her place in a way that few could have imagined. The investigators discovered evidence suggesting that Magan had pretended to be pregnant around the same time as Heidi, going so far as to give detailed updates to friends and family about her supposed pregnancy. She had even prepared a nursery in anticipation, crafting a story that would ultimately support her plan. When Heidi's daughter Margot was born, Majin saw her opportunity. In taking her friend's life, she intended to claim the newborn as her own, to complete the illusion she had spent months building. This betrayal by someone Heidi considered a sister was devastating for all who knew them. The depth of planning and pretense involved, the deliberate steps Majin took to insert herself into Heidi's life, all these elements combined to make this case not just tragic, but profoundly unsettling. It was a reminder of how trust can be shattered and how danger can sometimes come from the least expected places. Local law enforcement took swift action, launching a search for Heidi and her baby. They worked with neighbors, combing through nearby areas, talking to anyone who might have seen her that day. The community responded with an outpouring of support, sharing flyers and posts on social media, hoping that someone, somewhere had seen Heidi and could bring her and her child home safely. The sheer mystery of her disappearance left friends, family, and even strangers on edge, with each passing hour intensifying the worry. As days turned into a week, investigators continued their search, following leads and speaking to everyone close to Heidi. Shane, the last person known to have seen her, cooperated fully with authorities, desperate for answers. Suspicion initially surrounded him, as it often does in cases involving a missing partner, but there was no evidence to connect him to her disappearance, and his distress seemed genuine. The investigation would have to look elsewhere. The case took a turn when investigators received a tip from a friend who noted strange behavior from one of Heidi's closest friends, Megan Fieramusca. Megan had been part of Heidi's life for over a decade, and she was considered family by many. But as police interviewed those closest to Heidi, they learned of something unusual. Megan had claimed to be pregnant at the same time as Heidi, only to show no signs of a child when her due date supposedly arrived. The puzzle pieces began to fall into place when investigators looked deeper into Megan's story. They discovered that she had allegedly pretended to be pregnant for months, describing in detail her anticipated baby, and even giving updates about her supposed pregnancy to those around her. But her timeline, once scrutinized, did not align. Authorities grew suspicious, sensing that Megan's intentions may have been darker than anyone had realized. With this new lead, police secured a warrant to search Megan's residence, located nearly 150 miles away from Austin in the Houston area. The search would reveal a grim discovery that confirmed their suspicions. Inside the trunk of a vehicle parked outside Megan's home, authorities found Heidi Broussard's body. It was a heartbreaking end to the search, a discovery that left the entire community in shock. Margaret was found alive inside the home, unharmed but unaware of the tragedy that had taken her mother. The forensic evidence only further implicated Megan. Investigators found Heidi's body carefully concealed, indicating premeditation. Phone records showed communication between Megan and Heidi on the day of her disappearance, suggesting that Megan had lured Heidi under the guise of friendship, only to enact a carefully calculated plan. The weight of the evidence was clear. Megan had allegedly taken Heidi's life in an attempt to claim Margot as her own, completing a false narrative she had spun for months. After discovering Heidi Broussard's body in the trunk of a car outside Megan Fieramusca's Houston area home, the weight of the evidence became undeniable. The very friend Heidi had trusted, shared milestones with, and confided in was now the prime suspect in a shocking betrayal. Authorities moved quickly to secure Megan's arrest. Her connection to the crime was not only in the physical evidence but in her actions leading up to that day. She had allegedly fabricated a pregnancy, carefully weaving a false narrative around her life that extended even to her closest friends and family. Megan was apprehended on December 20th, 2019, 8 days after Heidi's disappearance. The news of her arrest echoed throughout the Austin and Houston communities, sparking disbelief among those who had known both women. As police escorted her away, Megan displayed no visible signs of remorse or emotion, a reaction that left many wondering how someone could commit such an act against a friend who had once trusted them completely. Family members and friends of Heidi watched in shock as Megan was led away, grappling with the reality of the betrayal. In initial statements, Megan offered little to no explanation for her actions. She was silent on the details, leaving investigators and the public without answers. But the evidence spoke volumes. Forensic analysis confirmed that Heidi's death was no accident, it was deliberate. The manner of concealment and the length of planning suggested a premeditated act, one driven by an obsession with the idea of raising Heidi's child as her own. The question that remained was, why would someone go to such lengths to orchestrate this tragedy? The courtroom proceedings were equally haunting. As Megan faced the charges, the details of her alleged actions and the plan she had crafted over months came to light. Prosecutors outlined how she had faked a pregnancy to friends and family, convincing them of her story with elaborate details. They argued that Megan had intended to take on Heidi's life, not just to remove her from it, but to replace her entirely, as if Heidi's child could somehow become her own. Throughout the trial, Megan's defense team attempted to paint a different picture, one of a woman struggling with mental health and emotional distress. But the prosecution focused on the methodical nature of her actions, detailing how she had not only fabricated a pregnancy, but meticulously planned to take Heidi's daughter. Witnesses were called to testify about Megan's strange behavior in the months leading up to the crime. Friends and acquaintances described her unusual fixation on Heidi's pregnancy, noting the inconsistencies in her own story that had, in hindsight, seemed questionable. The most poignant moment in the trial came when Heidi's family members took the stand. They shared memories of Heidi as a loving mother, a friend, and a daughter, their voices carrying the weight of loss and betrayal. It was a reminder of the human cost behind every detail of the case. The prosecution argued that Majin's actions had robbed Margot, not only of her mother but also of the family and future that Heidi had so carefully planned for her. After weeks of testimonies, the jury returned with a guilty verdict. Majin was convicted of murder, with additional charges relating to kidnapping. The sentence was handed down, offering some closure to Heidi's family and friends, though the scars of the crime would remain. Majin received a 55-year sentence without the possibility of parole, a decision that the court hoped would serve as a measure of justice for a community shaken by tragedy. The tragedy of Heidi Brassard's death left a lasting mark on her family, friends, and the Austin community. For those closest to Heidi, the shock and grief were almost too much to bear. Her family was devastated, struggling to comprehend how someone so loving, so full of life, could be taken from them in such a cruel way. Heidi's partner, Shane Carey, faced an unimaginable loss, not only of his beloved partner but of the future they had dreamed of together with their children. The void left behind was profound, a loss that would forever change the lives of those who knew and loved Heidi. Friends and neighbors who had watched Heidi grow into motherhood were left grappling with the heartbreak of her absence. People who had once been part of her daily life felt the weight of the tragedy deeply, mourning not only for Heidi but for the life Margot would have had with her mother. Community members organized vigils and gatherings to honor Heidi's memory, coming together to support one another and to try to make sense of what had happened. Memorials were set up in places that Heidi had loved, where friends and family could come to remember her, to share stories and to pay their respects. In the weeks following her death, an outpouring of support from across Texas and beyond showed just how far Heidi's story had reached. People who had never met Heidi felt a connection to her, moved by her story and the strength of her family in facing such a devastating loss. Online tributes flooded social media, and messages of sympathy poured in, offering words of comfort and solidarity to those grieving her loss. Her family, though heartbroken, found strength in these gestures, drawing comfort from the support of a community united in remembrance. Heidi Brassard's death sparked conversations around trust, mental health, and the importance of vigilance, even within close relationships. The tragic details of the case raised awareness of the complexities of friendships and the ways in which deception can sometimes lie hidden in plain sight. Families and communities across the country took the case as a solemn reminder to pay attention to any unusual behavior, to question things that may not seem right, and to be cautious even when it comes to those we think we know best. In response to the public's reaction, there was a renewed focus on understanding the factors that might drive someone to act in such a manner. Mental health advocates spoke out, emphasizing the importance of providing support for those who might be struggling, as well as the importance of recognizing signs that could indicate deeper issues. Conversations emerged around how to protect loved ones and how to respond when someone's behavior changes in unexpected ways. On a broader level, Heidi's story added to ongoing discussions about domestic violence and the need for resources that can address complex personal situations before they reach a point of tragedy. Her case became a part of the larger narrative about the need for community support, mental health resources, and understanding the psychological factors that can lead to harm. It underscored the need for awareness campaigns, educating people on how to identify warning signs and seek help when things feel amiss. For the family, Heidi's death brought not only grief but also a determination to honor her memory by encouraging vigilance and awareness within their community. Friends and family members spoke openly about her life and the need for safety, hoping to inspire others to cherish the relationships that lift us up and to be mindful of those that may have hidden dangers. The story of Heidi Brassard is one that resonates deeply, not just for the tragedy that took her life, but for the questions it leaves behind. It's a story of trust, of a friendship that should have been safe and comforting, turning into something that nobody could have predicted. It reminds us how even those we hold closest can sometimes harbor hidden motives, and it challenges us to consider how well we truly know the people we trust. As we reflect on Heidi's life, we remember her as a loving mother, a friend, a partner, and a daughter. She touched the lives of many, and her kindness was her lasting gift to those around her. But her story also asks us to stay aware of the complexities of human relationships, to recognize the importance of paying attention to the subtle changes in the behavior of those we know and care about. Her memory encourages us to protect ourselves and our loved ones, to remain cautious, and to prioritize safety even in our closest circles. What happened to Heidi is a loss that words can hardly capture. It's a reminder to cherish the moments we share with the ones we love, to be aware of potential warning signs, and to support each other with empathy and vigilance. Her legacy, carried forward by her family and community, is one of love and resilience in the face of heartbreak. If Heidi's story has moved you, if it has made you think about friendship, trust, or safety in a different way, we encourage you to share your thoughts. How do you think we can learn from tragedies like this? What steps can communities take to ensure safety and awareness among friends and family? Your insights, your reflections are part of keeping her memory alive. Let us know what you think and how you feel as we continue to remember Heidi Broussard and honor her life. The story of Heidi Broussard is one that resonates deeply, not just for the tragedy that took her life, but for the questions it leaves behind. It's a story of trust, of a friendship that should have been safe and comforting, turning into something that nobody could have predicted. It reminds us how even those we hold closest can sometimes harbor hidden motives, and it challenges us to consider how well we truly know the people we trust. As we reflect on Heidi's life, we remember her as a loving mother, a friend, a partner, and a daughter. She touched the lives of many, and her kindness was her lasting gift to those around her. But her story also asks us to stay aware of the complexities of human relationships, to recognize the importance of paying attention to the subtle changes in the behavior of those we know and care about. Her memory encourages us to protect ourselves and our loved ones, to remain cautious, and to prioritize safety even in our closest circles. What happened to Heidi is a loss that words can hardly capture. It's a reminder to cherish the moments we share with the ones we love, to be aware of potential warning signs, and to support each other with empathy and vigilance. Her legacy, carried forward by her family and community, is one of love and resilience in the face of heartbreak. If Heidi's story has moved you, if it has made you think about friendship, trust, or safety in a different way, we encourage you to share your thoughts. How do you think we can learn from tragedies like this? What steps can communities take to ensure safety and awareness among friends and family? Your insights, your reflections are part of keeping her memory alive. Let us know what you think and how you feel as we continue to remember Heidi Broussard and honor her life.